Welcome to this web extra edition of Expert Connections. I'm your host, Julie Holton. I'm the owner and principal strategist of M Connections Marketing Agency. And every Monday morning at 9 a.m., I host a show on ABC in Lansing called Expert Connections. Today, we have a really special conversation. I'm so excited to bring this to you because it is with one of our marketing connections experts, Paul Schmidt from UnoDeuce Multimedia. Now, before I bring Paul on, I want to show you what it is that we're going to be talking about here. Have you seen this billboard around the greater Lansing area? I can tell you, I was driving by it and I thought the power in storytelling. I think Lake Trust is using UnoDeuce's tagline. What's going on here? And so next thing I know, Paul is posting about this on social media. Paul, welcome to the show. I called you and I was like, so Paul, what's with the billboard? And there's quite a story behind the billboard. Paul, welcome to the show.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you for having me and putting this on. Julie is really, really special. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so there's such a cool story behind this billboard, but the billboard is actually the smallest part of the story, believe it or not. I mean, it, like physically might be the biggest part of the story, but when it comes to the whole layout of the story. So Paul, let's start back from the very beginning. And by the way, great branding that you have that I saw storytelling and I thought, what is Lake Trust doing? They're suddenly gonna move in on UnoDeuce's territory as the storytellers in town.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. The billboard of it in and of itself is the proverbial icing on the cake. It really is, because it was not something that was initially part of the plan. But like you said, let's back up.
Yeah, let's rewind. Let's start from the very beginning.
Let's go where this came from. And but also, let me touch on the fact that, I'm glad that the storytelling aspect is really out there with what we do, because that's how we really look at it. I mean, yes, we use video. Yes, we are a video company, but it is the stories we tell that is really what really makes its mark. So, but speaking of story.
For our story, yes. Okay, Let's rewind. Let's go all the way back to the beginning of this video. Tell us, Paul, about your relationship, the relationship between UnoDeuce Multimedia and Lake Trust Bank.
Well, it's funny is like, I've been a client of Lake Trust as at least on the personal side for quite some time, well over a decade. And so but the other aspect to this is the fact that, for those that know me and knows my company and knows what we do, one of the things that we do stories about and for our nonprofit organizations. And it's always been a dream to create like a fund or a situation in which we have a resource for nonprofits to be able to turn to get their story told, because that's the most important part of who they are, the positive things that they're doing in the community, the impacts they're making with not only their clients, but with their employees as well. So that's one of the things that I've always dreamed about doing.
And I have to say, Paul, that it really is such a cool part of your mission. You have such a heart for giving to others, and you found a way to be able to take, your skill set, what you're good at doing, providing these videos. You just have just such a unique way of being able to tell these stories. And you've combined your passion and your talents for video and really being able to pass it forward and give it forward to nonprofits in the area to make sure that their stories get out. So as long as I've known you, you definitely strive to help as many people as possible, in every way possible. And so what you're talking about totally makes sense. It would be amazing to have a fund set up for those. Okay, so I don't want to interrupt. Keep going, but I just want to say
keep on going. So,
but it's
no,
true.
no,
Anyone who knows Paul and his business, it's a very mission-focused, mission-driven, heart-centered business to help nonprofits.
and that's how I started. That's why I started it. And so it's something that I've kept going forward. And the other relationship to Lake Trust began with, obviously, the other thing that I do quite a bit and that people know me for is my extensive networking around the community. And I met Justin Hahn, who I'm blanking on his official position. I think it's in business services or business development with Lake Trust Credit Union. I met him at a networking event or a networking group, and we just started conversing and talking a little bit more about what I do and what he does. And I was able to bring him to one of my clients' annual fundraising events, and he saw a little bit of what we do in action. And so I told him a little bit about this situation. What I wanted to do in the long run is create something that allows nonprofits that we haven't worked with or don't have the budget to get a story told through video. And ironically enough, when the pandemic hit, there was a situation called the Great Lakes Give Back that Lake Trust, along with Patronicity, were putting together for local communities. And so Justin reached out to me and said, Paul, I think this is a perfect situation. I really think that you should apply for this. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, it sounds great. I was a little wary about the patronicity thing because the simple fact is it means you have to match what they're putting out there. You have to match it. So I was like, oh boy.
Let's talk about this. So this was what was this program? This was a grant program, or
it was a matching grant program. It was a matching grant program called the Great Lakes Give Back. And so they gave you $1,000 and then you had to match up to that. And anything you matched over or anything you put over that is obviously goes back to you, but they match up to $1,000. So in essence, you can honestly be raised up to $2,000 for this. And so I was like, okay, I know that one of the things that is, I don't want to call it a weakness, but one of the things that is a difficulty for me is asking people for money. in these types of situations is like, all right, well, let's see what I can do. Hopefully I'm able to do it. I mean, I hate begging or bothering people to beg for money or whatever. And so,
especially during a pandemic, right?
Yeah, I know, especially during a pandemic. So I'm like, okay, let's see if this is going to work out. So, but
at the same time, Paul, knowing you were like, but it's money on the table for nonprofits. How do I not do this? How do you know how to say no? I don't think you know how to say no.
Well, and I think that's it, because how I worded it, in trying to gain this momentum to get these matching dollars was the fact that I wanted to create something that actually, develop something for these nonprofits to be able to use, to be able to do something or have something they'd never had before, or work with a nonprofit that nobody's really heard of before, and putting that publicity out there. And so needless to say, the community answered, and I matched the grant plus more. So I don't know how much more, but it was pretty substantial. And so I was very thankful for that. And we were able to achieve the goal of doing that. And so that was really, really awesome. So with that, another silver, or I don't want to say silver lining, but another thing happened with that was the fact that after we matched that, a few weeks later, Justin contacted me again and said, there were some folks that didn't achieve their goals. And so we have extra money laying around. And we want to give you that extra to maybe do more with what you need to do with this grant. And I was like, this is amazing. So in essence, it tripled. The goal was this, and then it tripled from there, which allowed me to, let me back up a little bit. One of the things that we were just trying to do was, me and my team here, my team and I, sorry, all you English folks.
Where?
Yeah, no, right, exactly. My team and I chose 3 nonprofits that we have never worked with and that we thought were making positive strides in the community, and also had a youth focus, and also primarily served marginalized communities. So those were, we picked 3 and we asked people to vote on who they would like to receive the grant. But since we tripled it, we decided to not choose. We decided to use these 3 that we chose and say, you know what, let's do a minute video for all of them. And so that was the next thing, is like, because we got this extra, I'm like, well, now we can do for all instead of just do for one. And so that's what we decided to do in that regard. So we connected with all 3 organizations, just the last one just recently, because it's been, a pandemic year and it's been crazy. So that was the next thing. So we were able to.
Let me just recap, because we've still got more to this story. But so you set out.
Yep.
You set out with this idea that you shared with a connection at Lake Trust Bank, who then had an opportunity come up for this grant program that they were doing. Yep. And so you then thought, okay, why not? It's a pandemic. Let's raise some money for this matching grant. The community rallied, helped you go above and beyond raising that initial $1,000. So here you are with the $2,000 plus some, and ready to pass it forward, to pick one organization. And then here Lake Trust Bank comes back into the picture and says, wait a minute, because you're already passing it forward, we have these extra funds that now are yours. And so many, I'm putting words into their mouth, but I can just imagine they loved what you were doing anyway, helping nonprofits with this grant money. So then now there's triple the grant money. So you decide to help all 3 nonprofits when you originally were going to help one. Like, if this is not like the most incredible story of passing it forward during a pandemic, and that's just really kind of where it begins, this evolution of that, because now you've been able or are in the process of creating these videos that are going to then help each of these nonprofits who are focused on youth in the community to then move their mission forward. So then what happens? Because we still haven't gotten to this. Remember, we did say this was the smallest part of the story.
Well, exactly. And so, I mean, you recapped it beautifully. So the next thing was we reached out to 2 out of the 3 organizations. To this point, we were able to, we had one in mind already. And so we started working on that. And then the second one came in a little bit later, just kind of serendipitously. They needed a video before we actually went to them. In fact, it was through one of our current clients, Firecracker Foundation, in which the second video happened. And so that was really cool. In the meantime, in the fall, Lake Trust reached out to me again to say, we really like what you're doing, or what you've put forth with this grant. you were given this grant money and you didn't, boost your, or you didn't just keep it for yourself, you gave it back. And so they liked that story. So they had me, or they recorded me or did an interview with me for a video that they've put out. I haven't found the video. I know it's out there. It's out there in the ether. And so it's out there, but
you're a challenge. All right, who can find that video? We'll find it, Paul. But wait,
so I will find it, but I mean, they said it's out there. I haven't seen it yet, but
okay, but I have to interrupt you anyway, Paul, because I'm the master interrupter today. So
that's what you need to do. Otherwise, I ramble.
No, but so wait a minute. So you're telling us that you could have, like, this grant money didn't have to be passed forward. You could have used this grant money for your own business during the pandemic, but so you chose to pass it forward because you just said Lake Trust came to you and loved what you were doing in passing this forward. So they decided to then do a video to showcase your efforts. Tell us about that.
Well, I mean, that was the whole reason for me to do the grant. So they knew that, but then they saw it in action and they're like, oh my gosh, this is really cool. So we want to make sure that we get your story as part of this promotion. So because this is exactly, the Great Lakes Gives Back, because not only do we give back to the small business community, which is what the grant was for, you as a small business decided to give it back again to the organizations that you chose to work with by using this grant.
Incredible.
And I said, well, yeah, it was, to us, this was what we wanted to do. Mm-hmm. This is how we wanted to use this grant from the very beginning. This is what I've set out to do, obviously, as I prefaced at the very beginning with that. And so this whole process was just full of serendipity. And it was working out. It was just a complete awesome situation up through this point. And I did finally get a chance to, before I forget to mention, we did finally get a chance to talk with the third organization that we chose. And so we started the process on their video currently. So that's all happening. But in the meantime, why we're here, why we're talking about this,
yes,
is the most visible, the most visible part of it.
The billboard in the room.
And yes, the billboard in the room. Where in the world, how does that come into play? Well, that is the final, like I said, it is the literal proverbial icing on the cake, because they came to me and said, look, we're looking to put these billboards up and we want you to be, we just need you to take some pictures of behind the scenes and stuff. And so we attempted.
Here we go.
So we attempted to do that, and it didn't. We were just so crazy busy at that time. And so they ended up sending some folks out, because then they can capture a more authentic way of how we could be presented. And so, so that's what they did. They had sent out photographers in a couple days to take several pictures in different settings, and they're like, well, because I told them, I said, well, one day you can come and capture a situation in which we're actually shooting a video for a client. And they're like, well, that's perfect. So that's what the picture is. And so this is the absolute culmination of who we are and how we present ourselves to the public. And so in this picture, and this is the perfect representation of us, is because you don't see us, you see us slightly in the foreground, because right there is my video architect, Nick Couture. but it's over his shoulder. Who is in focus but our client? That's exactly what we wanted to say. So in essence, our client is just as much part of this billboard as we are. And the other icing is the fact that she's being interviewed on location in front of another nonprofit. And so it's one of those triple situations. And so you don't see us, you see us as, you don't see Nick's face, you see behind him, but because we want you to focus on the client, and because it's their story we're trying to capture at that point. So in essence, this is our story and how we are visually represented in that situation. So I couldn't have asked for a better framing of a shot of what we do and who we are. And it was just, it was just a very, the whole thing was a serendipitous situation. And I can't thank Justin and Lake Trust enough for this opportunity. Because I couldn't, because to realize something like this that I've been stewing over for years, trying to figure out how I can do something like this, just to be able to, in a couple of years, meet somebody to say, hey, here's an opportunity, and just to be able to run with it was just absolutely phenomenal and such a blessing.
And at such a critical time too during the pandemic, Paul, I just think that this really speaks to the heart of what you do at UnoDeuce and the heart of our community. I think back to all of the conversations that you and I had throughout the pandemic and in talking with our clients and obviously you and your team were limited at certain points with statewide restrictions on what you could even do. And so I just want to thank you for your work in our community, Paul, and Lake Trust, that during such a difficult time, you, Paul, chose to take an opportunity given to you by Lake Trust, an opportunity to move your business forward. And you gave back. You put out more good into the world, and you keep using the word serendipity, and I love that. But I also think it needs to be said that you chose to put your talents, your team's talents, to good use and to help others during this time. And so it's no surprise to me that good has come back, and that now it's on display for all of Greater Lansing to see with these billboards, and what a cool story behind these billboards, Paul. So thank you to you and your team for all that you do. So what's next with this trust? Do you know, is the Great Lakes Give Back going to continue each year? Is there talk about what this might look like moving forward?
That's a really good question, because now that it's almost July, the Great Lakes Give Back was about this time. So I haven't seen anything else about that. I'm not sure if it was just a one-time thing. I mean, that's a really good question. I haven't had much opportunity to look back at it, because I don't or look back to see if there's anything more happening, because it was
it's got our vote if it continues, right? Everyone watching.
Well, absolutely.
We give you 2 thumbs up, Lake Trust. Thank you for caring so much about our community to help move our businesses forward. And Paul, thank you for coming on today to share your story behind the storytelling billboard. Paul, any last thoughts before we wrap up? What would you say to others about giving, kind of passing it forward in our community, especially during this, as we start this recovery phase from the pandemic?
Well, I would say that when you look beyond you and look at the organizations and the people in the community that are, take a look at it in a positive light, that is exactly where you need to strive to be. And it doesn't take, like I said, it's not all about monetary value. It's not all about monetary return. It is about, making that same impact on these organizations that are making an impact on the community positively. And that's all it is. It's all about synergy, and it's all about, just being appropriate members of the community. And that's what it takes. And I know that I've made the choice to do what we do and present how we present, but at the same time, it's like it is available for everybody to be able to look at how you can align with an organization that really aligns with your values and how that can work going forward. And so that's how it, especially during times when you could really need each other.
Absolutely.
Like now.
Now. Yeah, we are stronger together. That's for sure. Paul, thanks so much for joining me for this web extra. You can catch Paul and the rest of the Marketing Connections experts every Monday morning at 9 a.m. on WLAJ in Lansing on Expert Connections. We will see you then.
Thank you, Julie.